Well, it promises to be a nervous November for new age companies that recently listed on the Lal Street. Nykaa, Paytm, PB Fintech, Delivery and others will see shares worth 1 lakh crore rupees being unlocked as pre-IPO lock-ins are set to expire. Nigel D'Souza is here with the details. Nigel, what should we be watching out for?
Well, as the name suggests, right, the header suggests that could potentially be 1 lakh crore of supply that could hit the market. And that's because the pre-IPO lock-in, well, it expires for various new age companies. 5 to be precise, they are the larger ones in there at some part of November itself. So let's get the list up for you on the screen. The dates where the lock-in expires, well, that comes up for you on the screen. The companies as well, and how have the stocks moved from their offer price. Now, you'll say that who will want to sell? Because anyways, these stocks have not given any big returns. These are pre-IPO investors. So for them, case in point being a Nykaa, well, the investors have got shares at around 200 rupees. The current market price is close to around 1,000 rupees. So there will be that sort of a temptation to go ahead and take some money off the table, either reallocate it or in fact, just book some profits. So that's the broad list out there. But let's run you through the quantum of shares that could be sold and in fact, the value of those shares as well. For Nykaa, we're breaking it up into two because the total quantum that's getting unlocked is around 31,000, 32,000 crores odd. But half of that is the promoter entity, which in all probability should not get sold. That's at least the way the street looks at it. So the overhang could be for around 16,000 crores odd. For Fino Payments, well, it's a smaller number, closer around 1,000 crores odd. However, the bottom three, they don't have a recognized promoter entity. So the fear is that there could be big supply coming in from there, from Paytm, Delivery, as well as PB Fintech. So you put the numbers together, the promoter unlocked, the total quantum or the value of the shares will be around 16,000 crores odd, while the non-promoters could be close to around 85,000 crores. Put that together, that comes to a 1 lakh crore rupees odd. And just to recap, the last time this happened was for Zomato. Remember, you had a couple of large investors in there. They had come out, then post the unlock, they went and sold shares. The stock price corrected close to around 20% in a matter of a couple of days and went down to around 43 odd. However, investors, they lapped it up because this lock-in expiry coincided with their results. For Nykaa as well, a similar thing could play out because their results are in the first week of November and that coincides with the lock-in expiry as well. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not investors come in there and lap up. They'll have to be a little daring to pick up some of these companies because of the kind of wealth erosion we have seen, and they'll have to be there for a longer time horizon. Finally, there could be two impacts that will play out. One is the share prices will continue to remain under pressure because of the big supply. The second factor is if some of those buyers who are waiting by for this dip, well, they're going to be spoiled for choice because there are going to be plenty of supply that's coming to market. It promised to be a very interesting November for some of these new age companies. In fact, we'll be chatting about this on our special edition every Friday on the Editors Roundtable at around 4:30 p.m. So you stay tuned for that as well.
Well, Nigel D'Souza there giving November rain a whole new meaning. Nigel, many thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you, Sonia, Dimesh and Anuj on our Friday favourite, the Editors Roundtable. Now, a report published by a top Republican senator in the United States on the origins of COVID-19 supports the lab leak theory. The findings of the Senate Health Committee report are interim, and it bears the signature of only Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina. The report does not provide any verifiable evidence or classified information to support the lab leak claims. Ekta Batra joins us now with more. Ekta.
Thanks for that. Firstly, let me say this report signed by the US Senator Richard Burr is based on information which is already available in the public domain. The report suggests it is reasonable to conclude that COVID-19 pandemic was more likely than not the result of a research-related incident. The report cites examples of the pandemic being a research-related incident as the early signs showed rapid spread of the virus in Wuhan, with earliest calls for assistance, in fact, being located near the Wuhan Institute of Virology, or WIV, in central Wuhan. The report points out concerns on biosafety at the Wuhan lab, and it says there was evidence of biosafety failures which is already known. The report goes on to say that the hypothesis of a natural zoonotic origin no longer deserves benefit of doubt or presumption of accuracy, but points out that more information is needed to arrive at a more precise, if not definitive, understanding of the origin of COVID and how the pandemic began. On the same topic, it points out if the COVID-19 pandemic, the result of the zoonotic spillover of COVID in Wuhan from an intermediate host species, there should be evidence of the virus circulating in animals before it spilled over into humans. Instead, there is no evidence that any animal was infected with COVID prior to the first human cases. Let me reiterate, all this information is already in the public domain. Lastly, the report urges government leaders, public health officials and scientists involved in COVID-19 and working to prevent future pandemics must commit to greater transparency, engagement and responsibility. The report also points to critical outstanding questions to conclude the origins of COVID-19, such as what is the intermediate host species, where did it first infect humans, and lastly, how did it acquire its unique genetic features.
Ekta, many thanks for joining us and explaining to us what that report says and, more importantly, what this means. Appreciate you joining us. At over 25 crores, India has the largest adolescent population in the world. Statistically, every fifth person in the country is between the age of 10 and 19, but most of them have never had a formal sex education class, and this has experts worried about holistic development. In this edition of our ongoing series, Get Schooled, Kiran Khatri speaks to schools that offer this subject as part of their curriculum to find out how they're faring.
30-year-old Kabir Man is an educational facilitator. He was 25 when he attended his first sex education class in a formal setting. He says it changed his life.
I identify myself as a trans person. I'm a trans man. अभी तक मुझे पता तो था, लेकिन I didn't have that time certain vocabulary. पर उस sex education से, gender sensitization से, I got my life on track.
Today, Kabir works with an NGO to spread awareness about sexual abuse and sex education to children in government and private schools, and says the content needs to go beyond just a basic lecture on human anatomy or morality.
So first or utmost tool is be open, be transparent, don't hide anything. हम अपने sexual organ को जब morality से जोड़ देंगे, तब problem हो जाएगी.
Organizations like Parvarish have succeeded in getting a few schools in the country to include sex education in their curriculum, but success is sporadic. I'm here at a Mumbai school that teaches children with learning disabilities. Sex education is an important part of their mental health module. The school believes that it is important for these children to learn this subject because they're at a greater risk of sexual abuse.
Now I want you to think.
Teachers at the school are trained and sensitized with the right vocabulary and terminology associated with the subject. The program has molded the school into a refuge for a 14-year-old child who's struggling with their gender identity.
It's a beautiful journey because she's completely accepted now within our school, extremely confident. It's beautiful to see kids completely accepting and acknowledging these aspects without any bullying, without any negative comments, or without putting any child down.
At Chennai's Sriniketan school, sex education is mandatory for students. The school felt it had to offer more than the CBSE recommended adolescent education program, given rising instances and reports on child abuse across the country.
We start very early. We start with kindergarten. We start with good touch, bad touch classes. We have puppet shows for children at that age group for them to comprehend what we try to say. And it goes right up to grade 12. We have age appropriate content for each of the grades. And we have our school counselor, in-house counselor, who goes around executing these classes.
A Montessori school in Hyderabad has added a robust curriculum on sex education this year. But the parents took some convincing, and it had to be careful to ensure the subjects covered were age appropriate.
There were some families that asked us, is it too early? Will it put ideas into my child's head? And then we actually explained to them like how it is done. Not every child gets everything. Our curriculum starts from bodily anatomy, goes all the way up to transgender, gender identity, gender fluidity, and rape and abuse and all of that. Obviously, we're not going to cover all of that for younger children.
Students at both schools have responded well to the classes.
If we face any troubles, we can approach them freely, and we have this comfort in mind that they won't judge us, and they won't, push us aside saying that this is not for you.
I was quite comfortable with body talk, except for one part, which was when they were telling the female organs, because it felt a bit weird. In the next body talk session, I felt a little better.
The problem is that schools with such a curriculum are a minority, and there have been instances of pushback from both parents and communities. But many educators believe this is a crucial step as it teaches children critical life skills like body confidence and gender equity, and creates awareness around the prevention of violence, communication, consent, and respect. In Mumbai, Kiran Khatri.
And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned. The news continues here on CNBC-TV18.